I just want to congratulate, first off, Jacksonville State on an amazing season and obviously a team that proved that they're pretty battle tested. Went and beat a very good McNeese team on the road and then traveled up here, and it was a battle. I mean, it's that game was going to come down to the wire one way or the other, and we were battling back and forth. So credit to that ball club and coaching staff. And then secondly, I want to just congratulate our players. We talk about it a lot in team meetings and go over things that, every game, especially when you start playing in December and you start getting into the playoffs, every game's going to have a little bit different feel to it. There might be some games that are smooth and rhythmic. There might be other games that are, defensive battles, or one half might be different than the next. And we consistently, and our guys, and I credit to our players and the coaches, we consistently are able to make adjustments and whatever ball game it is, find ways to win. And then, and to do that, it's tougher than you might think. So I'm really proud of our guys to keep fighting, and we found different ways to win in this game than we did a week ago. And who knows what kind of game we'll be in next week, but we know it's going to be it's a very good opponent. But we're happy to get one more shot at home with next week's ball game.
3 first downs, second half, but talk about the defense.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit, I don't know what the right way, just you can say rhythm, but there were just, we missed on a few things in the second half, but the defense did a great job, and it's hard for me sometimes without going back and watching film and just, I mean, it's true, and you hear it at every level. I mean, when you get in the playoffs, when you get at this time of year, and you're facing, one of the best 8 teams in the country, games are sometimes going to have that choppy feel, and they're not going to be always perfect. And you just have to find ways to win. So I was proud of our guys for that. But the nice thing is we'll have plenty of stuff that we can come back and coach and correct even after a win and go into the Final Four. That's always a nice thing as a coach. We can come back and address things and, in my opinion, play better football in certain aspects next week. But bottom line is, you're doing everything you can to win and get to a point where you're in this position. That's proud of our kids for that.
Speaking of Final Four, that's 3 in 4 years. What does that say about your program?
It says a lot. It does. I mean, it's hard to do, and I'm proud of everyone that's a part of it, because it's not just, it expands well beyond just the program itself. It expands into President Revelo and our administration, our athletic director Bill Chaves. It expands into the community and the support we're getting, and we feed off that. And there's a reason, I think, that that's a big reason why we've had so much success on the red turf is just that feeling of a home field advantage. And there's just a lot of factors that go into working to get to that point. But ultimately, though, I give so much credit I'm lucky to have the assistant coaches I have, and they're in place and they're working hard every day, because you're only as good head coach, and then finally those players. I mean, those leaders, those guys out there on the field, and there's many of those guys, juniors and seniors, that have been a part of most of that, some all of that, and that type of leadership goes further. It's not just about are you more talented. To do something like that consistently, you have to have a certain mindset and a certain attitude and mentality. And we have that in our locker room with those guys. So it's exciting, and but we're staying right now in our picture of this week, obviously, and excited about the opportunity we have.
In your mind, how much did the game change with the quarterback change that they were forced to make the second half?
I think it changed a decent amount. I mean, there's no question about that. That Eli definitely had, as an athlete who presented some problems to, I saw it on film, as I watched. I mean, here was a freshman who was consistently getting better as the year went along, and he does. He has a lot of ability, so I think it definitely changes certain things that you either can or can't do, or certain things that but the young man, I think he was still a second-team All-Leaguer in the Ohio Valley, or honorable mention, one or the other. So the other quarterback was still a player who played a lot of football and done well. So they had won games with both of them, but there was definitely a difference. I mean, he was tough to defend, and who knows? The whole game might have been different. It might have been different in terms of how we called certain things on offense too, and the flow of it. You just don't know what kind of game you would have gotten into.
Did it free your defense though, to just play maybe a little more,
I
let
think
it go a little bit?
I think there's certain aspects when you're facing a guy who you feel like is gonna, throw the ball primarily and maybe not run much on you, to do certain things a little bit. Yeah, you can do things differently. I mean, there was differences last year when people faced Padron compared to when they faced Vernon. I mean, we saw that from our side of things. And they both have their strengths, but they both have certain things that are not gonna hurt you as much with them. And, there's definitely aspects of defense that allow you to do different things when that change occurred, no question.
At the beginning of the year, you obviously were looking at playing some true freshmen at linebacker. What about Albert stood out in your mind as someone who could make a big contribution this year?
Well, as you can see, I mean, I think he's bigger than all our junior and senior linebackers already. I mean, so he already physically had it. I mean, he walked on campus and was physically ready to play, and he's still working every day on getting better at the mental part, and, that takes time, as a true freshman. But when you just saw him at his size be able to run like he can, I know he said he got gassed easy, but he can run. I mean, for not just for a big guy, he can run for a linebacker, let alone adding the fact of how much weight he's carrying, so how much thump he can bring. So we thought he was probably the most ready, but I'll be quite honest, the other two freshmen that came here too, they were right there too. And they're redshirting instead, but we knew that we were gonna play at least one, but maybe two linebackers, and we settled on one when we figured out exactly where, and Albert was definitely the most physically ready in terms of just his size.
In your mind, how did that play change the complexion of the game?
Huge. I mean, it did. And, and who knows? Again, I don't get too much into what would have, because you just never know. I mean, you're calling plays different. You're doing things different depending on if they go down. I mean, we've been in so many different types of ball games, whether we're coming back from behind in the fourth or getting a lead. But at that point, there's no question that, brought up the point when sometimes you are in a game where you only have 2 or 3 first downs. It's very similar to Montana State for us in 2012. Okay, in 2012, we were struggling at times offensively. Well, we find a play on special teams. We find a play on defense when Tenani, pick 6. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the way our guys think and the way our guys believe on the sideline. We don't, we know that we're going to be in different types of ball games, and it's never going to go exactly like planned. You just have to be ready to step up when your moment's called and adjust to it and find a way to either, win 17-16 or 45-44. It really doesn't matter, because you're just going to be. Football's a long year, and you're going to be in all those different types of games. So just proud of Albert in that situation, because he was part of that defense that found a way to hold, a very good opponent to 3 points in the second half, and also score on defense. That's major, and that changed him.
Time for 2 more questions.
Last week, Jacksonville State, 11 sacks. This week, there was a little pressure, but not much. And you guys also ran the ball extremely well. Can you talk about the performance of the offensive line?
Oh, I thought the offensive line played really well. And I think for back-to-back weeks, I think probably our worst half in the playoffs so far has been the first half of South Dakota State. We struggled a little bit there, but we made adjustments, and they turned it around and played great in the second half. And then I think they carried it over into this week. I do. I think the O-line did a great job in terms of, protections. I thought the running backs added to that piece too. And, Vern did a good job getting into the right protections, although I don't think there were too many times where he had to check protections. And then from a run game standpoint, we were able to lean on that a lot too. I think, I've said it before, I think we get thought of as just, pass first and pass but happy, but really, and especially when you get to this point in the year, we've been balanced all year. We're right around 50-50, and I love being balanced, and it doesn't mean that you won't have that game where you're 2-1, one side or the other, doing what it takes to win, but those big boys up front, that's something they've worked on and we've stressed all the way back to February. It didn't just happen this week, we're gonna run the ball. It was back in February and in spring ball, and then in fall camp, we're gonna make a conceded effort to be better next year running the ball if we truly wanna have a great chance of, playing 15, 16 football games, which is our mindset.
What have you seen in Quincy Forte that has brought him to the front of this depth chart?
He's kind of got a little bit of everything in him, and that's not taking anything away from guys like, Mario and Jabari and Bronson and guys who have run for us well, not just this year, but in the last couple of years. But Quincy brings probably, the biggest you know, threat of maybe a home run still with some power, you know, because he has a little bit more strength than you might think for a smaller guy. But at the same time, I mean, I'll be the first to say if all of a sudden, you know, any one of those guys I mentioned, you know, could get some of those carries and might end up in the same spot. We're just blessed to have, in my opinion, a nice group of running back by committee, so to speak. But I think that's helped us. I said it last week. You know, Quincy came into last week with only, I think, 120 carries on the year, and going into South Dakota State. And a lot of times you're starting running back by week 13, and he's not sitting at 120 carries. And he hasn't been injured, but we were able to do that throughout the course of the year with Mario and Jabari and Bronson. And then when it's all said and done, you're fresh at the end of the year with all your backs. And that's all kind of part of the big picture plan, you know, that we've had.